In a world of shadows, we seek the light. Stories untold, voices that ignite. With hearts wide open, we tread the line for those we love. Their stories intertwine. Save a life, hold on tight. Through the darkness, we will fight. In memories, they shine so bright. For the Lord.
Hey, welcome to Fentanyl Facts and Stories. I'm Charlie Perry, along with Paula Young, and we have Maria Stoker. She is a parent of she had lost her child due to fentanyl, and so she's on it to share her story. Periodically, throughout the podcast, there may be another guest popping in. We have invited some other parents to come on, some other guests. So, as you see new people on, we will introduce them. All right. So, Maria, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on, Marie. I see that you live in New Jersey, and you unfortunately lost your very handsome son, Tommy, to fentanyl poisoning. And you're an RN, which is amazing because you are seeing so much of what the rest of the world is not. And I so appreciate you being on. I know I connected with you through Facebook, and it seems like the grieving parents, all of us, we make that connection, and then we stay in touch because no one understands our story unless, unfortunately, they've lived it. And we are absolutely trying to make sure that we don't continue to have angel parents join us. We're hoping to have a decrease. But why don't you please tell us about yourself, about your wonderful, handsome son, Tommy? And I always say, and please understand that I always acknowledge our angel children as they're still here. They're still around us. We just can't see them, but sometimes we feel them by signs and just by certain things that happen. So I know he's around telling you, yay, Mom. I know you're doing good, Mama. You are absolutely doing good. And by the way, I love the glasses, because if you and I were in the studio somewhere, I'd be taking them. Just let you know.
Thank you, Paula. Well, my name is Maria Stoker. I lost my son, Tommy, on July 12th, 2023. 21 months, which, you know what? Time flies, but yet it goes slow. And I just said that to my husband today. I said, that sounds odd, but that's what it is. I have 3 sons, and Tommy was the youngest. And Tommy struggled with depression. He had depression and he had social anxiety. It developed in his teenage years. And, we had taken him to the doctor a few times. They were trying him on all this different medicine, and I had to keep taking him back. And eventually, me being the registered nurse, I started to think to myself, this is not good. They just keep switching medications on him, and it, when you prescribe an antidepressant, technically you're supposed to be on it for 6 weeks before you get an effect of it. And they were changing it like every week. So as a registered nurse, I knew this wasn't going to work. So essentially, I had taken my son off the medication, and he was doing quite well. He played football, even though he had social anxiety, there were always girls that wanted to be around him, and even when he had graduated himself. There was a neighbor of ours who um, she didn't have a prom date, and she asked my son, "Could you, be my prom date?" And of course, he was the type that, yes, even though he had that social anxiety, he never wanted anyone to feel left out. That was such a quality.
Mm.
And so, I mean, I have this beautiful picture, several of them, um, of my son and the girl that he accompanied to the prom. And what had occurred, you know, in his late teenage years, um, he started experimenting. And eventually he got hooked on opioids, pain pills. And those led to heroin.
Mm.
And so he battled for almost 10 years. And eventually, and I mean, we just kept getting, Tommy, you need to go to treatment. You need to go to treatment. No, no, I don't need treatment. I think my husband and I took him to so many NA meetings, and, he would get a 6-month tag, a 9-month tag, and then he would relapse. And then eventually one day he realized he needed help. So we got him into rehab, and that started his recovery. And everything that he ever wanted, he used to write these lists down of things that he wanted to accomplish. He went ahead and he did. He enrolled in college, wanted to be a psychologist. He had gotten a job as a mail carrier with the United States Postal Service. And as a matter of fact, he used to deliver my mail every once in a while, which was kind of funny. You know, um, 4 years, you know, 4 beautiful years. And, finally, moved out and, got his apartment, got his car, and then even got a new car, and had a girlfriend. And I mean, he was just living life the way that everyone should be, enjoying his life, going to concerts and just loved amusement parks. And of course, I too as well, even though I'm older. Um, I used to take my kids to all these amusement parks and would get on the roller coasters with them. I don't care how upside down they went, I went on them, with my kids. And so, all of my sons enjoyed amusement parks. Tommy loved all different genres of music. Um, Amazingly, his favorite band was the Beatles. I remember, as a teenager when we had CDs, and I used to buy him all these CDs, of the Beatles, and, took him into New York one day because there was a Beatle tribute. And I mean, he was just ecstatic over it, you know.
Maria, you know that they're making movies. They're gonna make several movies with each Beatle, John Lennon, Paul McCartney. Each movie is gonna be what? There's 5 of them, 4 of them. I forget. Or there'll be one movie after another. It's coming out this year, and
Wow.
so it'll be John Lennon telling his story.
Mm.
And it's gonna be real nice. So high reviews already, and so I just since you mentioned it, I wanted to mention. I just found out just a few days ago. So
Well, thank you. Thank
yeah,
you for letting me know that. I wasn't aware, but thank you.
um, Maria, they as you continue, your love and your grief. How do you advocate for fentanyl and all the facts and stories, and how are you advocating, or are you advocating? What are you doing after this tragic loss?
Well, personally, I mean, right now in the position that I'm in my employment, um, I am really pushing, which is important. Um, it's kind of hard for me to say this right now, only because of where I work,
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Well, if it's a
yeah, I have to
HIPAA
kind of be careful
violation,
with
I
that.
totally I get it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you
But
do
I do push. I'm constantly reminding, that this is a very vulnerable population. I'm going to just say that,
hmm
and that pushing right now, more harm reduction centers. Um, overdose awareness. I just made a post the other day, and I think this kind of drives me. You know, is that every day I see videos of children 12 years old and up. And I mean, it just breaks my heart
sure.
watching these videos and going to the Black Poster Project, which is absolutely beautiful, you know. But I'm like, what do they say? We're supposed to educate ourselves and educate others.
Mm,
But it seems like that's not enough. Okay, we have these rallies, we have billboards, we have banners, we have all of these things. We try to get into the schools and start educating. Middle school is where we need to start educating.
I agree.
A lot are focusing on high school, but I'm worried about my granddaughter who's 12 years old,
Mm,
when I start to see this. So there has to be education there, but also parents have to educate when they're, I mean, not that none of us didn't say to our children, you know, don't do drugs, this and that, I mean, we have all done our best. But what happens is when they go out and they get peer pressure, in middle school and in high school, and you don't have that control, you need to recognize the signs of what's happening. The thing is that when Tommy, had his 4 years, I have to be honest with you, for the first 3 years, I still held my breath, always worrying. It was always there in the back of my mind. But then I finally, was at peace, like, okay, my son's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. And the way I found out about it was he didn't go to work that day.
mm,
And so I went to his apartment. He lived a mile and a half away from me. And I saw his car out there and I thought, wow, maybe he overslept. Maybe he's sick, and started knocking and banging on the door, and ringing. And I can hear his phone ringing in the kitchen. I can hear, putting my ear up against the door, hearing the air conditioner, and thinking, my God, why can't he hear me? He must be in a deep sleep.
hmm
Never once did I ever think that my son was deceased on the bathroom floor.
Wow.
I didn't think that at all. He didn't want to die. I don't know. I can't, for anybody that's listening, I mean, I don't know what happened. All those what ifs, or, did I miss something? I mean, these are things that are going to haunt me,
Mm,
you know?
And I think that that's one of the things, and this is one of the reasons why we're doing this, right? because what people don't understand is, and I've said this so many times, is the domino effect that comes with this. People don't understand that there's siblings that are left behind, that there's, a dad left behind, that there's, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever the case may be. And folks just don't understand that the trauma that comes with that. And, in fentanyl, I mean, and being what you do, I mean, we talk about this, and we just talked about this just the other day, last week on our podcast. Drugs have been around for 50, 60 years, right? They've been around since Nixon. And what did he do? He created a campaign around stopping drugs and
Right.
starting at the Mexican border. And here we are 60 years later, and they're still here. So it's really, and you said it, Maria, it's the advocacy work that's being done, the awareness, the education, the prevention by all of us, and so many groups and all of us coming together. And I find that what's happening, and I just had a conversation today with someone who he's amazing, and he did 30 years of Intel. And he said it. He said, Paula, he said, I see a shift happening. And the shift that I see happening is that people are now becoming complacent to this. And they're becoming where, oh, okay, it was just another fentanyl poisoning, whatever. And that's the problem, because right now the iron is hot and we need to jump on it, and we need to do everything possible. It's the supply, right? I mean, people will say, well, look at all these busts that we've had. And not too long ago, there was 29 people that were brought from Mexico to the United States that were part of the cartels. Really? Because those were people that were already on a list. So how valuable were they really? Because the fentanyl is still coming into our country when there's 100,000 vehicles coming through the border. And even though the border does have more protection now, 100,000 vehicles, they're getting, the fentanyl might not be coming the way that people think it's coming, because a lot of, as we know here in America, it's being made here also now. And it's American folks that are starting to sell it, the American citizens.
That's right.
But what we're not talking about is, and you said it, it's all of this awareness and everything. Well, we need to start talking about the supply. We need to start talking about where we really need to go to stop this. Because unfortunately, with this crisis that we continue to see, yeah, we might have given a little bit of a dent to them, but they're not going to stop. If anything, we've just pissed them off even more, to where now they're going to come up with other tactics. And that's the problem. And it's not just, a pill anymore. Fentanyl is in everything. It's gummy bears, it's vape pens, it's marijuana, it's coke, it's meth. We see it, we hear it. And the campaign needs to be one around everything. The DARE program, when I was young, when I remember about the DARE program, and this is what I think we need, Maria, and you can chime in. The one big thing I remember about the DARE program was the commercial, the PSA that we all saw on TV with the egg cracking in the fire, in the frying pan. And bam, this is your brain on drugs. Everybody freaking remembers that. We need the same thing. We need something that is hardcore. We need something that the kids are going to be like, hey, did you just see that commercial? Wow. Because how is it years later, that's what we remember?
Paul, you're correct. And thank you for reminding me, because I said I had made a post, okay? And that's exactly what I was talking about in my post, is that how we treated COVID, okay? There were PSAs on TV every single day, not only from the CDC, but from our local governments, elected officials, making sure, 6 feet apart, this and that. Well, this is what we need to do, okay, because it is an epidemic, and too many young people are dying every single day. There should be outrage about this. And Americans are turning a blind eye. They're turning a blind eye because I feel that, well, it's not happening to my family, so I don't need to worry about this.
Mhm.
Well, I pray to God that it never does happen to your family. Yes, closing the borders, they're doing that, but it's still coming in. I read it all the time how many drug busts that they're doing, but yet it's still coming in. And so to be able not only to put these PSAs out on television every single day, through radio, social media, the TikTok, any of that, to really raise awareness that, you can't trust anything. These young children are on TikTok all the time. They need to be reminded, even though they're your best friend, you don't know what you're getting. If it doesn't have a prescription with your name on it, you don't take it. You know, we
Exactly.
we have to do this.
Right. And with my son, because I don't know how much you know about my story, but my son got his marijuana from someone he actually knew. So it wasn't where he went on here, because that's a whole nother thing, right? This is the new drug dealer of our youth today, which we did
Yes.
not have, but they have. They go right on Snapchat or any other social media platform, and they buy their product, whether it's a Percocet, Vicodin, whatever, and they have it delivered, and they don't know truly what they're getting. And one of the biggest things is, because someone said to me the other day, well, the Democrats didn't do anything, the Republicans are doing it. And I stopped them and I said, this is not a Republican or Democratic issue. This is a United States of America humanitarian issue, because it is affecting all sides. So that's what we need to get back to. We need to understand that in 60 years of this crisis, there has been many people in that seat, and here we still are today.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's parents like you, Maria, and so many others that are out there advocating and sharing your story. And, and even Charlie and I have had many amazing people on our podcast. And we say this all the time. It doesn't matter if you've lost a child or not. Compassion is free. And
That's right.
when you can give us compassion and understand that we're not just a grieving parent in front of you, we're looking for action, because
Hmm.
non-action is no longer an excuse. And if you're not going to do it, then guess what? We have an army of parents who are.
That's right. Because there's still stigma surrounding
Yes.
this.
Yes.
And it just infuriates me. If your child didn't die of cancer or car accident, then it's like, well, they chose to do it, or whatever. But it doesn't matter. If they did not want to die, they made a mistake.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, is they made a mistake. My
Right.
son did not want to die.
Right.
All
Exactly.
these young children did not want to die. They made a mistake and trusted a friend.
Right.
Or,
And
or
and
as you
in
said, Snapchat.
Right. Or in many cases, as we've also seen, and this, Maria, is, you should not die from your mistake, right? Because how
Correct.
many things did we do when we were young, all three of us on
Right.
this call?
Hmm.
And we're here. And
Yes.
unfortunately, and this is why, when I speak, I tell the young kids today, especially because, as we know, the statistics are showing that the kids are starting to vape at 7 years old, 7 and 8 years old. I mean, there was just a big bust here in Boston 2 weeks ago of a 9 year old, nine, nine, bringing 200 vapes to school, 9 years old. Like, for my first thought is, who's his dealer? Number one.
Right.
And why isn't he in prison? What is happening here? Because what's happening is that these vapes are going right back, and I'm sure you're going to remember this, Maria and Charlie and everyone listening. The vape industry is going right back to the tobacco industry. We have just put the clock back. Why? Because when the tobacco industry and Philip Morris, which is kind of funny because that's my husband's name, Philip Morris Young, but no relation, because you definitely are not billionaires, that's for sure.
Mhm.
But they targeted young people, right? They targeted with commercials on TV and the magazine covers of a cowboy or someone in a bar smoking a cigarette. Hey, this is great for you. So why is it that we can have cigarettes that now have the packaging to say may cause cancer? This is harmful to you. We can have a coalition coming together to stop hunger. We can have a coalition for the gun violence. Well, what the hell? Because a lot of parents are working damn hard. And it's like you said, it's like no one is listening. And if they are listening, it's molasses. It's the molasses that is coming out of the bottle, and it's taking forever. Or you'll have people in legislation say, well, we hear you and we understand, but what do you want me to do?
Mm.
Right.
Well, what the hell do you mean what I want you to do? Your job. I can't go in
Exactly.
and write legislation. I can't go in and start start a case around. I can't do that. But you can, and all the options that you have. So I think it's continuing what we're doing and not giving up, because as
Right.
we know, Maria, you and I know, sometimes this is taxing on us, right? Like we don't want to get up. We don't want to go to work. We don't want to have to talk to people. We don't want to have to deal with anything. We just don't. And then you'll get people, well, are you okay? How about I don't even want to give you an answer on that?
Mm.
Yeah.
Because I'm not. Because this is unfortunately now our world, where people look at us and they see us and they're like, oh, wow, hey, those ladies are great. They're strong. They're powerful. They're warriors. They're doing wonderful. But they don't see what's behind the mask.
That's right. I've heard many times, oh, you're a strong woman. You'll get through this. And again, for individuals that have not lost a son or daughter, you know, I used to get very upset, but and say, oh, they're ignorant. But I just pray for them. But I've even had comments like, "Oh, you're still grieving? I mean, you have two other kids."
Mm.
It's like, wait a minute.
The kid just doesn't disappear. I mean, it's
Right,
crazy.
right. It's like like a Legos. Like, what do you think I'm gonna do? Build like Legos and move them around? No, there's a void.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a son that is gone. There is a void. Yes, I'm blessed with two other sons, but that does not replace my son Tommy. It just doesn't.
Right. And that's where you and I are so connected, Maria, because I have 3 sons and mine was the oldest. And I heard the same exact thing you did. And Charlie knows this because I've talked about it. I mean, I remember I was somewhere, and I'll tell this story quick. It was my husband, and we were actually at my son, who we lost, his godmother's house. And she had a friend over. And that comment that you just made is what she made to me. She said, well, you still have 2 other boys.
Mm.
And my husband looked at her and said, tell me which one of your children you're going to give up right now.
Yeah.
And she just she stopped. And he goes, he wasn't just her child for a year or 2. He was my child for 33 years. And he's still my child today, just like Tommy is still your child. And all of the children that have been lost to this crisis, they are still our children. They do
That's
not
right.
go away. We are still their parents until the day we are reunited with them. That does not stop. And you talked about the stigma. The stigma is just insane. I mean, And I know there's not too much you can say, and I don't want you to, but I can tell you that in the medical industry here in Boston, you have doctors who are having someone come in from Boston that might be on substance use, and just having a hard time, and it's just an addict to them, and that's pathetic and disgusting. Because I can tell you right now that although our son did not suffer from substance use, he liked marijuana. That was his thing. That doesn't mean that that everyone is not important. That your son Tommy is just as important as Andrew and all of the other angels out there. It does not take away from the importance of who they are and the human beings that they are. And this is why we can't stop.
Right. And I will say you are right. I have, being in the healthcare industry, I have personally witnessed, oh, well, why, just an addict or this and that. No, that's somebody's son or daughter.
Hmm.
There definitely, unfortunately, is still a lot of stigma in the healthcare industry. And a lot of them are nurses.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that, you know,
They,
it's sad.
you would think they would have a little bit more empathy, but I've seen it myself in my own profession. It's just constantly, you don't expect that from the professional level, but it's there. Believe it or not, Maria, a lot of the people in the first responders, sometimes those jobs are their first jobs, so they don't have too much life skills, right? But job skills. They're very young, coming on the job, and with no kind of understanding, and I wish sometimes that the first responders and the full circle. I wish that those jobs wasn't their first jobs. Where you and I might have worked at a store or restaurant or something. You get some people skills through that. Some people come on and they never really interacted with any kind of people at all, and then so when they come into the professional fields, this is firsthand. They have no understanding whatsoever. Not even, I mean, barely drinking age, and coming on and trying to tell someone that's 30, 40, 50 years old how to handle their kid, and they are they are young adults as it is. So, but anyways, you just bring a flashback when you talked about someone making that comment. I just got this flashback from when I was on the job, and some of the things I heard, but anyways, the Maria, I hope that you definitely come back on the podcast, and share some more stories. Bring a friend with you. Bring a relative with you to say, hey, Paula, Charlie, I want to come on. Even if you're friends with Paula on her Facebook and you see it on the page, just go in the comment section and say, invite me. And I'm gonna see your name. I'm gonna see, and I'll just send you a link, and then you can just come back on the podcast. There may be something new that you just came across in your area, or might have went to a meeting or something, and you just want to kind of put it out there. But you want to basically tell it. I mean, you can always add it in the comments, but if you want to verbally tell us, feel free just to ask for an invite, and we'll put you on.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Now, if you could change anything, Maria, since what you've seen, and you just had carte blanche to say, here you go, you do what you think you need to do, what do you think that would be?
For me,
Besides wanting to throat punch people, because by the way, that is my tagline. I love to throat punch.
right now it's interesting because I'm getting ready here to leave my job
Mm,
for a reason. I'll just say I work for the state. Okay.
yeah.
So I'm getting ready to leave my job. And that's okay with me. I'm at peace with this. And the reason why I'm at peace is because I need to get out there more.
Mm,
I need to get out there and raise more awareness. Okay. Joining those rallies, doing the walks, putting events on, getting the pictures out. For me, that keeps my son's memory alive,
Mhm.
and it's important that I do that, you know.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest things because I know, like, even with me, I constantly am told, how is it that you're doing this? Because it's only been 3 years. And I tell people, I said, because if I didn't, I'd be dead.
Hmm.
And this is what, us grieving parents live with. And there are some parents, as we know, who have suffered the same loss, but just aren't ready to talk. And that's
Hmm.
okay because we speak for them. We're there to be their voice also. And I think one of the biggest things also is really, and I say this all the time, is collaborating with people who are on the same mission. Because there's so many things popping up everywhere. And you want to make sure that you get with someone, a group, whoever, however you want to do it, that has the same mission you do. Because
Yes.
that's one of the biggest things for me here in Massachusetts is, I am very particular on who I partner with. And the reason is because my mission is a little bit different than everybody, because I lost my son to marijuana, to it being laced. And well, we all know how that's been going. And the naysayers, and it can't be possible, and it reaches a certain temperature. And our whole podcast last week was about this. And and we had our fire chief on who basically said, no, it can happen. It is happening. It has nothing to do with temperature. And then we had the two great gentlemen who are now in recovery, who one of them indicated on the podcast last week that he was smoking fentanyl right in
Wow.
the foil.
mm,
So for people to have this, no, it's not happening. Okay, so I can put it in foil, and that's okay, but because it's in marijuana, it doesn't exist. And yeah, but all of our stories are important. All of our stories are need to be heard, and this is why we do this every week. And Charlie is so great because he's been such a great host. And again, we always have wonderful people on every week, like yourself. Today we have you
yes.
on.
Yep.
And yes, I did invite some other parents, and that's okay because some parents are not ready to do this. And
Hmm.
again, that's okay, you know, because we are going to continue to talk about it. We're going to continue to make sure that we have the awareness, the prevention, because that's what it is. Because when you have kids that are getting an emoji on their phone, and the emoji can be a palm tree or it can be a basketball, which my son coached basketball, and you're looking at it as a parent, you're thinking, oh, okay, well, my child's going to go out to play. No, your child was just informed by the drug dealer to go pick up his product. And this is why the awareness needs to, expand, and it needs to be so much bigger. Because again, I will never say, Maria, that I speak for everybody, because I don't. I speak for my son's story, and for the parents who have lost their children to the marijuana laced with fentanyl. But I stand with parents like you, because we are in this together.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And I was one of those parents that couldn't talk about it for a while. Well, I mean, again, I'm only 21 months since Tommy has passed. And on Overdose Awareness Day last year, I was asked to speak. And I did. I went up and I shared my story with the Drug Epidemic Memorial Wall in Morris County. Um, I mean, it was a beautiful event. It was also very, moving. Um, but interesting enough, right after that, about 2 weeks later, I became ill.
Mm.
And I
Oh,
wound up having a mini stroke.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And, so
oh,
I had to
jeez.
take a break. I had to take a break um, off Facebook, everything. And I just couldn't talk about it because it was physically affecting me. And I honestly believe it was because I needed time to process. Because the first year, I was in denial.
Mm.
It was shock.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, like, how could this be? I remember the first Mother's Day pacing back and forth in my house because Tommy used to come here, and he would bring me, gifts and a card. And so I was pacing, waiting for him to come, you know. I have his car and I see it outside. And that first year, I was convincing myself that, oh, he just went away on a trip. He'll be back.
Mm.
I was having a very, very hard time trying to accept this loss. So I understand why parents sometimes can't come on. Now I can. Now I can talk about it because I need to.
Mm.
Yeah.
This is my emotional need that I have to fulfill. And like you, Paula, thank you for sharing. Did I feel like I wanted to off myself? Absolutely. Absolutely. In the beginning, I had stopped taking my medicine. And, my doctor said, Maria, you're a nurse and, you have high blood pressure and you can have a stroke. And I was like, it's okay. It's okay. I want to be with my son,
Mm.
Right.
and
And it's interesting because one of the things I've done is I've started following a lot of great people, right, in our grief. And one of the people I follow, I have to look him up and I'll send it to you, Maria. But he said one of the things that people don't understand is when we face the death of a child, our brain actually goes through trauma. And
mhm,
it's almost like we were just in a car crash
right,
because your brain doesn't know how to process what you're hearing and what has been said to you. And the mental instability and the depression and the suicide and everything is all normal. I
correct.
mean, and people will sit there, and Charlie knows the story. When we first lost Andrew, I was going to the cemetery every day. Every day. There was times I wanted to dig him out. just so that he could be with me. And people would look at me and they're like, "What's wrong with you? Are you crazy?" And I got to the point, Maria, where I said to people, "Bury your child and then come talk to me."
Right.
Because
Because they don't understand.
no, no. And it's very hard to explain to people because I've been asked, I'm sure as you have, is, tell us what it's like. And the only thing I can say is it's like when you are in the ocean, you're waist deep in, you turn around. You hear the waves, but you don't know how big it's coming.
Mm.
And literally you lose your breath and you find it hard to breathe. And even breathing is a task.
Mhm.
And there's so many parents out there that, just getting up and going to take a shower, remembering to eat. Like our memories are shot. I mean,
Yes.
I find myself, and I'm sure you do, and Charlie already knows this about me anyway, I'm either repeating myself or I totally forgot that I just told you this and I'm saying it again. And, some people kind of look at me and they're like, you told me this conversation already. And then other people who know, they're like, okay, no problem. I get it. And okay,
Mhm.
because that's the mental trauma that we go through. And if we can share anything with people listening today, it's please understand that when you lose a child, it's like you just lost an arm or a leg.
Mhm.
The difference is, like that arm and leg that's not going to come back, neither is our child. But the reminder is always there. And your brain is now trying to process that you have just lost that limb, and your body's trying to tell your brain's trying to tell your mind, well, hey, how are we going to do this now?
Mhm.
And it's having faith, because I talk about that too. It's truly having faith.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of people, they don't. And again, but with me, I say this all the time. I mean, I didn't want to talk about God and Jesus when I lost my son. You couldn't even talk to me. Don't dare talk to me about those people. I don't want to hear it. I was having people in my church tell me, that is not a Christian thing to say, Paula. Jesus don't like that. I looked at this woman and I said to her, really? You're the one that shouldn't be in here then, because if Jesus were here, he would understand.
Mhm.
And he knew exactly what I was going to say before I said it to you. You should not be here because you're wrong. And, and it took a long time. And even today, there's moments every day that I question, why did you take him and not me? I'm older. Why didn't you let him live here? But one thing that was said to me, and I'll never forget these words by this pastor, and he's an older pastor, and he said to me, he said, Paula, you do know that if you were given the option right now and the opportunity by God to say, come get your son, he would not come back because of the fact that they are much better off than we are. They no longer have pain. They no longer have suffering. They know nothing but unconditional love. And, unfortunately, that's not our world.
So true.
When there's so much hate going on and so much division with so many
Yes.
things. And this is why, again, I so appreciate you, Maria, for coming on, because these connections are so important.
Paula,
Yeah.
thank you. And thank you because I am a woman of faith and I was so angry with God. I didn't want to pray. I didn't want to hear about it. I didn't want to hear anything. And I did the same thing because it's not the natural order of life.
Mm.
Right.
We expect grandparents, then our parents. And for this to happen, I questioned why. Why did you take him? Why didn't you take me? I just I was so angry with God. And I've made my peace. I have. And I do pray now. But yes, you're right. There are moments that I'll still ask, why?
Yeah.
Was it me? Did I do something so bad that you took my son?
And I remember there was one time, and I'll share this story with you and everybody, and everyone has heard it. But my son was very close with my dad. And my son had spoken to my dad on video 2 days prior to him unexpectedly passing away. So my dad, being very old school Portuguese, his response was to me. Now, I come from the community I'm in now is 2 hours away from the community I actually come from, which is another very big Portuguese, Spanish, Italian community. And my dad said, well, you need to be like Mary. And I'm like, okay, well, there's 9 billion Marys here in this town, even though there's 20,000 people. What Mary am I supposed to be with? He was talking about Jesus' mother.
Wow.
And I'm like, really, Dad? But, I had to process that, right? Because here you have, and we talked about this in the beginning, a grandparent who just lost his first grandchild in the manner he lost him, and had just spoken to him on Sunday. And on Tuesday morning, I'm calling him. So it's the process and of everything that everyone goes through and the domino effect. Because even your other children, that's their brother. And your husband, that's their son. And Charlie and I talk about this all the time. We got to do a podcast with dads because we never see them talking. And they struggle and suffer just as much as we do.
Yes, they do.
And they
In
deserve,
silence.
yes, in silence, exactly. We are out there talking. We're out there communicating. We're out there, co-communicating with parents and getting together, like we are right now in this podcast. They are not. And I think that that's one of the biggest things also is that people need to understand that it doesn't matter how long someone has passed away. For us, it's every day. Or for anyone who has lost a loved one, it's every day. It doesn't go away. It doesn't, and then you talk about not being a good mother. I suck at landscaping, just to let you know. And I share this with you because if you give me a flower, I will kill it. I don't know what is wrong with me. For some
Same
reason,
here.
yeah, flowers just don't last in my home. So I try to make sure I have, Andrew's, where he is, the stone, everything looking nice. So I went out and bought fake flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I have them there and I like to make it look nice. So what my son loves to do, and I know that this is him, is it can be 80 degrees out, not a cloud in the sky. I go to the cemetery, all of a sudden freaking clouds are coming in. The clouds are coming in, the wind is getting high, the temperature's dropping, and then I'm yelling into the sky and I'm like, Andrew, Mom, I know I suck, but I'm not going to have this looking terrible. Just let me fix it. And people like, what the hell is wrong with this woman? But, but again, those are the signs, right? Those are the signs that we get from them, letting us know that we're there. We had lights. We used to have the solar lights, and now we have just one. And my husband shares a story all the time, and he tells people, he said, when I was putting the solar lights, he said, I swear I could. It's like Andrew came right to me and said, Phil, you need to go tell my mother. Are you looking at that? Like she needs a ruler or something. Look, she sucks. Go help her out. So again, it's those things that bring us to the next day, right? And like with your son Tommy and everything you shared about him, and I so love everything you shared, and the fact of him loving music and his car and his job and and please don't ever think that you failed, because you didn't. You didn't fail. We didn't fail. It took me a very long time to understand. And it was another mom who lost her daughter. And she actually lost her daughter to a head on collision. And she said to me, she said, "Did you cause Andrew to die?" No. Were you there? No. Did you give him the marijuana? No. Stop blaming yourself.
Mm.
And it took a very long time to truly understand that, and to understand that um, it's something that, and it's, yes, ebbs and flows. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also having the communication, right? I mean, I have so many parents that I speak to daily, and now you're going to be another one, because we develop this army, this tribe, as I like to call it,
Mm-hmm.
of just picking up the phone or sometimes sending a text. Or I'll have sometimes some of my parents, they're like, "Okay, I haven't heard from you. What's going on? We need to
Mm-hmm.
talk, get on the phone." Or even Charlie will, "Hey, what's going on? Haven't seen
Mm-hmm.
you. Haven't been on Facebook." I had a mom just send me a message yesterday. She goes, "I haven't seen you on Facebook. What's going on? Are you okay?" And she goes, "Are you avoiding all the drama?" Because there's a lot of drama, as we know, Maria. And I just said to her, I said, "Yes, actually I am." Because I don't want to be part of it.
Right.
So but it's just the connection that we now develop.
Yes.
And I
Absolutely.
and I thank you so very much for being on and sharing your story and sharing your precious son. And do you have a photo that you can show everyone? I don't know if you do anything close to
Well, if I
you.
get up, I can because I have a display here with his flag and,
Oh, we
in a
would love to
display
see that.
case. Yeah, let me see if I can get this here. Let me see.
Oh, I love the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
How
see that?
I
cute.
can
Yes,
see it.
we can.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
And then up over here, just let me know if you can see this because I
Oh,
can't see. I
yes.
have the flag in loving memory.
Oh, I
It
love that.
says, yeah, this whole, my baker's rack here, even though I have pictures all over my house, I took all the little plates and stuff and put it in my china cabinet and just dedicated this whole spot here to Tommy. And just, as I'm thinking about this, and for any mothers that are out there, because Paula, you said something about some people don't understand. We think, we're crazy. I have his wallet, I have his phone.
Hmm.
I even have his cologne. He used to vape. I have his vape here with all his juices. I have his Yankee candle that he had in his house.
Mm.
And these are things that are important to me.
Yes.
You know, there's a connection.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one other thing, which, I look for signs. And this is the one thing that I know when my son is like, "Yeah, mom, I'm here."
Mm.
Well, I have his phone. The service, though, has been turned off. It took me 14 months to do it, to turn it off. So it sits on the baker's rack. Okay. No service. And if I'm on the phone and I'm talking to one of his brothers, there's a coin drop that occurs on his phone.
Mm.
Oh, I love that.
And my other son would say, "Mom, was that Tommy's phone?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Mm.
he's listening. He's here." And he does that. I mean, there'll be days you don't hear anything. And then if I'm having, a rough day, he'll coin drop me,
Mm.
I love
you
that.
know. He's left little signs, he used to have, because he was a mail carrier, he probably had about 20 rubber bands on his wrist. And if I tell you that I have found rubber bands inside my mailbox,
Yeah.
I found 3 of them in the past 21 months, and it was always during a time where I was not having a good day.
Yeah.
Mm.
But he had to remind me, Mom, I'm still here.
Yes. Yeah. And he's always here, and they are always
Yes.
here. And one of the best advices that I was given by someone is they said to me, talk to them. They're always around you.
Mm-hmm.
And you just can't see them. So you just have to mentally say to yourself, they're just in another room.
Yeah.
But they can hear you. They are always around, always.
Yes, absolutely.
And is there any last words that you would like to tell everyone listening tonight? And again, you have been so courageous. And yes, we're told this all the
Yes.
time that we're strong, but you know what? I don't know if I would call it strength, more of this is our mission. This is our path. And we go back to religion. I've been told a couple of times that you had to lose your son to do what it is you're doing today to save others.
Yes.
And at that time and point, I was like, I just want to throat punch this lady. Did she just really say this to me? But then I think back of the people that we've spoken to and people that have listened to us, like the people listening tonight. We're making an impact. We're saving lives without even knowing who they are.
Yes. And this is what I have to say. Don't ever take your family for granted.
Mm.
Don't ever think that they're going to be there. See, I always thought, well, Tommy will always be there. Because, again, it wasn't the natural order of life. With Tommy's passing, there's 2 things. One of them being, don't take your family for granted because they may not be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
You don't want regrets.
Yeah.
But number 2, I'm sorry, Charlie,
No, go ahead.
is that there is a mission, okay? And Tommy has put me on this mission to help someone else so they do not have to go through what we are going through. I don't wish this on anyone. I don't have enemies, but if I did, I wouldn't even wish it on my enemy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, Maria, I want to say thank you for joining us. Paula, once again, thank you for reaching out to our fabulous guest. And please, everyone that are listening, commenting, 12th Street Talkback podcast, I appreciate your comments. Kelly, Stedman, Marlo, I see you. Thanks for the sympathy. And please, everyone, join us on the Fentanyl Facts and Stories every Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, here on Facebook and on YouTube. All right.
Yes. And next week's guest is a really great guest. It's actually someone that I have been connected to who was a former agent for 30 years in Intel. And he's definitely going to have a lot to say. And he's also a former Ranger. So my husband, who's 6'5", says he never wants to meet him because he could probably kick his ass. So I hope that everyone listens next week because he's going to bring a different perspective to everything, especially having been on the intelligence side of all of this.
Right.
Exactly.
And Maria, again, thank you so much. You have
Yes.
my number.
Thank you.
Thank
We're
you.
definitely going to be in touch more often.
Thank you so much. It's
And
been
thank
a
you,
pleasure.
everyone, for
Yes.
joining us. Absolutely.
Yes.
It's a comment. So true. I just lost my brother 3 months ago to cancer in less than 3 months. Sorry to hear that.
Oh, we are so
yeah.
sorry for your loss. And
Yes.
we'll definitely sending you prayers.
Yeah, please. You ever need us, don't hesitate. you ever want to talk and tell your story, you can do that too. We just lost a friend here in the community from cancer. She struggled for several years, and so now we just lost her just 2 days ago. So, all right, everyone. Thank you, Paula, Maria. Have a great night, and I will see you
Thank you.
guys. Give me a call if you need me. All right,
Thank you,
take
Charlie.
care.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
All right,
Maria.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Bye bye.
bye bye. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Tomorrow on the Really Charlie podcast, I have two guests. I have Waleem, the funky professor, and Chops Turner. They collaborated together. They got a new there's an EP out there. It's called the Grown Folks Party. They will be on my podcast tomorrow on the Really Charlie podcast. And also Wednesday, start a new podcast. It's called Sometimes You Gotta Lose Yourself. That will be aired 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Myself and my other host, co-host Marvin Speller will be on. And he wanted to do something, so we're gonna do this every week. And in the morning, actually just before lunchtime on Wednesday, I will be bringing up some history on a local Baptist church, and they're having a celebration, and it goes back quite a few years. So, I'm going to kind of bring up some history on that. So, just stick with me. And if you want to come on one of the podcasts, let me know. Just send me an email at the Really Charlie Podcast at gmail.com. And I'll get you on there. Thank you. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 7:30, I believe it is 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I will be on the Really Charlie Podcast. Take care. God bless. And have a great night.